Good morning. Fred, a very devout Catholic, was in the hospital nearing death. The family called his good friend, the deacon, to come and pray with them. As the deacon stood next to the bed, Fred's condition appeared to deteriorate rapidly, and he motioned frantically for something to write on. He lovingly handed him a pen and piece of paper, and Fred used his last bit of energy to scribble a note. Then he died. The deacon thought best not to look at the note at that time, so he placed it in his shirt pocket. At the funeral, as the deacon was finishing the eulogy, he realized that he was wearing the same shirt as when Fred died. He said, "You know, Fred handed me a note just before he passed. I haven't looked at it, but knowing Fred, I'm sure there's a word of inspiration there for all of us." He opened the note and said, "Move, you're standing on my oxygen tube." The original joke was about a priest, but I didn't want to beat up a priest, so I decided to pick on deacons instead. Today we celebrate the fifth Sunday of Lent, and we hear the moving story of the resurrection of Lazarus. There's a significant amount of detail in this gospel, according to John, the evangelist. The story of Lazarus in John chapter 11 is one of the most dramatic miracles recorded in the ministry of Jesus. There are four primary characters in today's gospel: Jesus, Martha, Mary, and Lazarus. Martha, Mary, and Lazarus were siblings, and all of them were close friends of Jesus. Lazarus' sisters had sent word to Jesus that their brother was ill and perhaps would soon die. On receiving the message, Jesus waited 2 days so that the will of God might be demonstrated through a major miracle. At last, Jesus went to the house of Lazarus, knowing very well that his friend had died. On his arrival, Jesus comforted Mary with one of the most treasured of his teachings that can be offered today in many funerals. "I am the resurrection and the life. Whoever lives and believes in me will never die." Jesus' beloved friend Lazarus had been dead for 4 days. By human reasoning, this situation was completely hopeless, and everyone believed that there was nothing more that could be done. "By now there will be a stench," his sister says. Jesus' response is the same as ours, with tears. Jesus weeps, and his tears are personal. When he sees Martha and Mary grieving for their brother, he grieves with them. And he sees Lazarus, the one whom he loves, dead in the tomb, he weeps. "See how he loved him," they said, as they saw him shed his tears. Martha says, "Lord, if you'd been here, my brother would not have died." That wouldn't have happened, so she also cries for justice. However, Jesus demonstrated his possesses authority even over death. Standing before the tomb, he called out in a loud voice, "Lazarus, come forth." Immediately the man who had been dead walked out of the grave and wrapped in burial cloths. This miracle revealed the divine power of Jesus over life and death. The funeral rituals of Jesus' day were obviously very different from ours, though they are still closely practiced by some Orthodox Jews. When somebody dies, there's no embalming. Instead, the body is wrapped in linen, and before sunset on the day of the death is put into a burial vault, a cave, or something similar carved into lime rock, often with myrrh, frankincense, and perfumes. Biblical scholars tell us there's some evidence that in the early 3rd century, there was a rabbinical belief that the soul hovered over the body of the deceased for 3 days. Then there was intense mourning for 7 days, followed by less intense mourning period for 23 days. According to John, the raising of Lazarus is the 6th of 7 signs, and it is the culmination of Jesus' public ministry. It is the longest single story of the 4 Gospels, covering 45 verses. Today we heard the shortened version. It's also Jesus' last public appearance before his passion and death. Jesus knew what was to come, and he was ready and willing for his own death. So I ask you, we heard that Jesus wept. When is the last time you wept? Many of us cry when we see someone that we see loving is hurting. Parents shed tears for our children who are sick or away from home too long. Young children often cry when they're away from their parents. Other reasons why people cry is to express distress. This is often seen in babies and infants who don't have the words to vocalize what they need. Many people cry to express their grief, which can be a typical part of the grieving process. We know that we have members of our parish today who are grieving the loss of a loved one. We know that the 5 stages of grief, especially during something as powerful as death, are first denial, then anger, then bargaining, then depression, and finally acceptance. Also, when people are depressed, one symptom is frequent crying. We cry for ourselves when we're hurt, when we're frustrated, when we're sad, or maybe when we're lonely. Our tears are personal. They typically are for someone we know. Rarely do we weep for someone that we do not know. Our cries may also be for cries of justice, asking the question, God, why? Why him or her? Why now? It was too early. It can't be true. If we feel better after a good cry, this is due to the release of endorphins, our feel-good hormones. A good cry can reduce stress. A good cry can bond us more closely with others, and a good cry decreases our physical pain. Have you ever tried to cry happy tears? For some, this experience is joy that produces the tears. This is commonly seen during a very moving event, the birth of a baby or at a wedding. How many of us cried when we were able to be present for the birth of one of our children or the wedding of someone we're very close to? Those tend to be tears of joy. Tears help lubricate our eyes and protect them from bacteria, so crying is a way to help ensure our eyes stay healthy. Thomas à Kempis once wrote, "Every action of yours, every thought, should be those of one who expects to die before the day is out. Death would have no great terror for you if you had a quiet conscience. Then why not keep clear of sin and have a quiet conscience instead of running away from death?" He said, if you aren't fit to face death today, you're very likely that you will not be so tomorrow. We know that sometimes God doesn't respond the way we expect. Mary and Martha sent word to Jesus because they believed he could cure Lazarus. Yet Jesus waited. From the human perspective, it seemed like a delay. But from God's perspective, it wasn't a delay. It was a preparation. Jesus knew the miracle would come, and it would strengthen the faith of everyone who witnessed it. In our own lives, there are seasons when God seems quiet. Prayers might feel unanswered. Situations grow worse instead of better. But this gospel reminds us that God's delays are not his denial. He didn't necessarily say no. He just said, not yet. Often, he's preparing for a greater moment of grace so that we deepen our faith and help prepare us for everlasting life.